On this week's episode of Tiaras, Tears and Triumphs, we're going to look at the fairy tale of happily ever after gone wrong, when the guy we thought was Prince Charming turns out to be Prince Harming. So when you are looking for a happily ever after with a significant other, you don't expect the worst when you are starting out. You go into a new relationship looking through rose-coloured glasses, through the eyes of infatuation, with a hopeful heart that this could be the one. Your focus is not on a person's flaws or their misgivings, but it is on the connection that you feel as you look at their appealing qualities and you focus on looking for things that you share in common with each other. You and your potential mate are both putting your best foot forward, looking to make a positive impression on the other. So when you are thinking, could this be the one? You have a really good idea of the things in your mind that you want in your happily ever after. And you see the one as being a partner that is going to treat you as a beloved should treat you. And whether you know it or not, you go into new relationships with expectations. You have preconceived ideas of the way you would like to be treated in the relationship. And if you are anything like me, you will have this fairy tale notion that your Prince Charming will declare his undying love for you, will declare his willingness to lay down his life for you, and will have eyes for no other. Seriously, that is the story that I had told myself as being the way that the man I said yes to being in a relationship would be with me. And the sentiments that I've just expressed are absolutely fine to aspire to, but there was still something missing in my expectations. And that was a clear boundary on what I would not put up with, what I would not tolerate. I had been brought up with the belief that marriage was sacred and that the woman plays a submissive role with giving deference to the man to be the head of the house. I know it seems like a really antiquated idea when women have been fighting for a long time now, fighting the good fight, the equal rights. But this was the way that I was raised. And there are still elements of this way of being that actually can work, with all things being absolutely equal between the man and the woman in the relationship. So it can work when the man understands the privileged position that he has been given and doesn't do anything to take advantage of this. And when the man respects the woman and her rights and considers the support her and supports her needs and desires. So but that is not what happens in controlling and abusive relationships. Far, far from it. So, so as I said, this isn't what happens in controlling and abusive relationships. It is a game of power and control. And this is where women need to know how to create safe boundaries for themselves, to protect themselves from controlling and abusive men. And I learned this lesson the hard way through first-hand experience, that the person who appears to be Prince Charming can turn out to be actually Prince Charming. And without having the skills to create safe boundaries at that time, I would say that there were lessons in those experiences that were all opportunities for me to learn how to heal parts of myself that needed healing, and to learn about things that I needed to learn to grow as a person. So, not that I recognized that at the time, but hindsight is always a wonderful thing, and it is a brilliant teacher. And I want you to now just imagine something for a moment. I want you to imagine that you are in the scene of a fairy tale. I want you to imagine that you are a beautiful princess in a flowing gown, and you are walking through a lush green field dotted with pretty daisies. It's a lovely day. The sun is shining and there is a refreshing breeze. And as you merrily go along your way, suddenly along comes a striking figure on horseback riding towards you. He stops as he nears you, and as you both look into each other's eyes, there is an instant connection. It's electric. You are both smitten. It is love at first sight. Now, this dashing stranger, let's call him Prince Charming. He has a contagious smile, is totally charming and sincere when he speaks to you. And guess what? He's drop dead gorgeous on top of all of that. Now, from the way he looks and the way he makes you feel no need to put up your guard, and you say yes easily when he asks you if he can accompany you on your walk. You have no reason not to trust him, and the infatuation begins. And as you walk off with your head in the clouds and your feet lifting off the ground like you are weightless, buoyant, and bubbling with feelings of happiness and optimism. It's a nice picture, isn't it? But just hold that thought for a minute, because now I want you to imagine for a moment something different. So you're in the same scene of the fairy tale. You are still that same princess in a beautiful flowing gown, and you are still walking through a field. Yet this day is different. The sky is grey, the wind is howling, and you have the uncomfortable knowledge that it appears a storm is brewing, and you could well get caught out in it. Suddenly, along comes another striking figure on horseback riding towards you. This time he is wearing black from head to toe, and as he comes nearer, his face appears menacing. His eyes are leering at you, piercing through you, full of anger and venom. You feel that he has you in his sights, and you sense that you are his target. Danger feels imminent. Your fight-flight instinct kicks in, and you think of how you can get away from him or defend yourself against him if he catches up with you. You prepare yourself for the worst, and you do whatever you need to do to get away from him. Can you see the difference? It is clear that these two situations and these two characters are worlds apart in their differences. If it were that easy to spot a controlling and abusive potential partner, chances are we would have been spared from getting into an abusive relationship. But the fact is that controlling and abusive men appear to be the prince in the first story when you first meet them.